Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is wild and, 100% real. What if I told you a football match once sparked a war? Not a metaphor. An actual military conflict. Explosions, tanks, thousands dead, all triggered during a World Cup qualifier. Let's take you back. The year was 1969, Central America. Hot, tense, explosive. Two countries, El Salvador and Honduras, were about to clash on the football pitch. But what happened next was anything but a game. This wasn't just about goals or trophies. It was about land, people, survival. See, El Salvador was small, but overcrowded. Too many people, not enough space. So thousands of Salvadorans started crossing into neighboring Honduras to farm and survive. By the 1960s, over 300,000 Salvadorans were living in Honduras, most undocumented, most poor, most just trying to make it. But Honduras had its own problems. Local farmers wanted land, and the rich elites, teamed up with U.S. fruit companies like United Fruit, wanted even more. So guess who became the target? In 1962, a land reform law was passed, and just like that, Salvadorans were suddenly illegal squatters. Evictions began, violence followed, and both governments, they were fanning the flames instead of calming them. Then came the football. In June of 1969, El Salvador and Honduras were drawn to face each other in a three-match qualifier for the 1970 FIFA World Cup. Game 1, Honduras. Crowds screaming slurs, horns blaring outside the Salvadoran team's hotel all night, trash thrown, players threatened. Honduras won 1-0, but the real blow came after. Back in El Salvador, a young Salvadoran girl, devastated by the loss, took her own life. Her funeral was broadcast on national television. Suddenly, it wasn't just a match, it was personal. Just a week later, we find ourselves at Game 2, this time in El Salvador. Now, it was Honduras' turn to suffer. Their players found themselves surrounded by mobs. Rocks flew through the air, flags were set ablaze, fans attacked with a vengeance. On the field, El Salvador dominated, crushing Honduras with a 3-0 victory. But off the pitch, it was nothing short of brutal. Hondurans living in El Salvador faced beatings. They were harassed. Some, tragically, were even killed. Game 3 took place in Mexico on neutral ground. The tensions were, well, nuclear. El Salvador emerged victorious, winning 3-2 after extra time. But on that very same day, El Salvador made a drastic move. They severed all diplomatic ties with Honduras. There was no more pretending. Less than 3 weeks later, boom, El Salvador launched a full-blown invasion. July 14, 1969. Airstrikes, tanks, ground troops. A football match had lit the fuse, but this war had been smoldering for years. And in just 100 hours, over 6,000 people were dead. Thousands more injured. Entire villages destroyed. It became known as the 100-Hour War. The Organization of American States begged for peace. El Salvador finally agreed to a ceasefire, but refused to fully withdraw for months. A real peace treaty wouldn't be signed until 1982. That's 11 years later. And those Salvadorans who had been living in Honduras, many were forced to flee, back to a country that had no land, no homes, no jobs. The war destroyed relations, wrecked economies, and left scars that still haven't healed. All of this from football? Well, not exactly. Football was the spark, sure, but the fuel was already there. Land disputes, poverty, political games, nationalist propaganda. Football just gave people a way to release their anger, first in stadiums, then in the streets, and finally through the roar of warplanes. The soccer war stands today as one of the strangest and honestly saddest examples of how sport, pride, and politics can collide. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes a game isn't just a game. So, next time you're watching two nations face off in a tense match, remember it's not always about the score. Sometimes it's about everything that happened before the kickoff. Like the video if you learned something new. Subscribe for more unbelievable stories from history. And tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are and where are you watching from? I'll be reading every single one. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next